Good morning, everyone. Welcome to PetraCoach's Thought Leadership webinar series. PetraCoach is a mind shift business that empowers leaders and their teams to scale their organizations through the facilitation and implementation of the Rockefeller habits. With a wide network of thought leaders, we utilize this series to give you all direct access to these experts and their industry insights. And today we are joined by Arnie Malham. Arnie is an award-winning CEO, 8-figure entrepreneur, and best-selling author who helps progressive leaders create and sustain engaging cultures within their organization. With more than 20 years of successful entrepreneurship under his belt, Arnie has founded and sold multiple businesses, and through employing thousands of team members across 3 different companies, he has implemented simple yet effective methods to create remarkable and sustainable cultures. You all may know Arnie best from BetterBookClub, his reading rewards program that allows companies to compensate their teams for continuous learning. Today, Arnie is going to uncover the how and the why behind some of the lesser known but most practical features of BetterBookClub to ensure that you're fully utilizing the capabilities of the platform and that it's effectively implemented, gaining insights and fostering connection and learning within your teams. All right, as a reminder, everyone, this is an interactive session. Arnie wants to hear from you. So if you look at the bottom of the toolbar on your screen, you will see a Q&A button and a chat button. We want you to use those 24/7. Any questions or comments you have for Arnie, just let us know. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off.
Thank you. I love being here. Love that we have some interest in what Better Book Club can do even more for your organizations. I like to start these by letting folks know what Better Book Club is not, just in case there's some hey, book clubs don't work for us kind of mentality. We are not a read what your boss read book club. We're all reading the same thing book club. Better Book Club is, the concept is, it's not the book, it's the habit, and the whole concept of Better Book Club is helping to recognize and reward the habit of reading way more than a specific book or a specific title. And so the story I tell is that I used to always read a book and then I'd get all excited about that book. I'd buy 20 copies and go pass them out. And what I learned the hard way was that while a few people followed that lead and read the book, most people didn't want my last book to become their next book. But most people do gain an awful lot from the habit of reading over years and hopefully a lifetime. And so that just want to lead with that sort of concept of what Better Book Club is, and more importantly, what it is not. Now, the second big thing, I'm kind of in the Better Book Club 101 thing, is people say, well, where are the books? Well, as most of you know on this call, we're not the books. We're just a platform for keeping up with what people have read and then a way to reward them for it. What I have to always remind folks of is that it's not just the reward is nice, the recognition is the most important thing. If there's a book club out there and there's 35 users and 6 or 8 people are reading and doing the reports and getting their reward, but that's happening in a vacuum, that's happening without recognition on a company-wide level, then it's rare that book club, that interest in that book club grows. What happens is those folks, that small group continues to read and get rewarded, but the rest of the team doesn't hear about it. They don't find opportunities to participate, and so we get about a 25% sort of usage rate, as opposed to a club where recognition is a part of your huddles, it's a part of your meeting rhythms. People are publicly recognized for the books they're reading and for the rewards that they're getting. And then what we find is a slow and steady growth of a club where we get about 2/3 usage rate in the club, as opposed to less than a third usage rate. And so the recognition and reward is a huge part of it. Now, can't discount the reward, because that often is that's the excuse we use to go ahead and get that book finished. And what we have incorporated, as many of you know, into the system is an automated reward system. And so I'm just going to share screen on a lot of this today and let you guys kind of make sure we're all aware of what the opportunities are for every book club. And whether you're an admin and can immediately put this stuff into place, or you're a user of the book club and you want to be able to speak these things up to your leadership or management to say, here's what we might want to think about, these should be hopefully valuable opportunities. So in our automated system, clubs are able to choose their currency and the reward catalog. They're also able to choose that how much a point of a book is. If a book is 100 points, the recommendation, the default, is that a book is worth $100 to read and report on that book. But clubs find that they can set these to 50 cents per point, and they can also reset it to $2 per point. And they can do that they can change that anytime they want. We've had clubs that say, hey, fourth quarter or first quarter, we want everybody to get a head start. So in first quarter, it's double points. We're going to go $2 per point of a book. And so that can often help with a kickoff session or a re-kickoff session of a club, and it can become valuable. The other thing we do is we allow our system to automatically keep up with any reward limits you want to put on a club. The default reward limit, which can easily be changed, is that team members can earn up to $100 per quarter by reading and reporting on books. But the duration can be changed to any period. It could be 4 months, it could be 6 months, it could be annual, it could be a month, and the amount can be changed to any amount. It could be $350 per quarter instead of $100 per quarter. It depends on what the company's goals are and how long they've been in place and what they're trying to get done, participation, and all that stuff. So we highly encourage clubs to let the system keep up with how many points lead to how many dollars, what the limits per quarter, month, or annual system are. Then it also gives us the opportunity for when a book report is completed and that book report is approved, then the system automatically sends the reward certificate, which allows the company allows the user to select any reward in this massive catalog, which I didn't plan reward catalog. Yeah, and so the reward, as all of you know, from Tango, is a massive amount of different retailers and restaurants and travel and Amazon and Target and Kroger, and it goes on, so that the user isn't limited by what they choose in terms of reward. And best of all, this entire reward system is just part of the service. You don't pay any more for these rewards or for using the automated reward system than you would if you didn't use it. So it's all included in the system. There's another little feature which I don't know if I can show you from here, but we can also, once you sign up for Tango Rewards, that you can set up parameters to say when a new club member joins our club, adds their picture, and tags at least 5 books as read, reading, or want to read, then the system will automatically, upon completion of those items, will send that user a $20 gift card so that they can buy their next book. And a lot of clubs find this a great little feature. So when they onboard a new team member, they say, hey, be sure to log into BetterBookClub and set up your profile. Some people do, some people don't. Some people will log on but won't add their picture. Some people will log on and add their picture but won't tag the books they've read in the past. And so this gives them a little incentive and a little reminder every time they log on to the system, if they haven't added their picture, to add it, if they haven't tagged at least 5 books, to tag those 5 books. And upon doing so, it will reward them with a $20 gift card. And this just helps in not only the participation in signing up, but actually using the system. I'll lean into that just a little and say, if your club page looks like this, where nearly every profile title, tag, or tile, has a picture, then you're doing great. If when you load your club members, you see a lot of these shadows of people who haven't loaded their picture yet, then it's not as inviting to the next person that signs in. If we sign in and we see familiar faces, then we feel like it's a place we belong. If we sign in and we see a bunch of shadows, we might say, well, no one else is doing this, why should I? Same thing applies to the leadership of the company. If I log on and I see my leadership participating, I'm more likely to participate. If I log in and I don't see my leadership participating, I might have second thoughts. And so one of the reasons we've incorporated the picture into part of the onboarding process is to get more familiarity, and that folks can see sort of what's going on. Okay, that was a long jump in. And I appreciate, yeah, when you have a person, go ahead and add their picture. If they don't add their picture the first time, every time they log on and don't add it, it becomes less and less probability that they will. But the more people that add their picture, the more probability that they will. So jump onto that as well. All right. Another feature that folks may not know about is we've incorporated under Managed Book Club settings, we have the ability to enable Slack notifications or team notifications so that everybody in your organization, when someone reads a new book, when someone gets a report approved, when someone joins as a new member, every time something happens, that information gets pushed over into your Slack or Teams channel. And so you don't have to log into Better Book Club to see activity happening, right? You would see it showing up in one of those channels, and all of a sudden it becomes more in sight and in mind as opposed to out of sight and out of mind. It can work on what you need to make that happen. If you're an admin, or if you get your admin to click on the question mark, it will tell them everything they need to know to get this connected to either Slack or Teams. Obviously, you need admin privileges within our system to get that done, and you'll need admin privileges within your Slack or Teams to get that done. But once it's connected, it stays connected, and can often pass along. Keep Better Book Club, the recognition part of Better Book Club, in front of folks on an ongoing basis. I don't know if I don't see anything in the chat about questions about either of the things I've talked about, but if I'm looking at this correctly, but if you have some, please let me know.
Emily just sent a question. She said, does their book report come to Slack too, or just if they've read it?
Yeah, no, not the entire book. It will say, Emily has completed this book. It will say that they've submitted a book report. It will say that that book report was approved, but it won't have the actual report in the channel. Cool beans.
Yeah, I know Petra, when they'll have in their weekly huddle, they'll have people bring in their reports if they've completed a book the past week and kind of hit those high points.
Yeah, every club sort of attacks this differently. Some clubs have scheduled meetings, third Wednesday of every quarter. We're going to come in, everyone's going to bring in their book report, everyone gets 5 minutes to tell us about the book they read. Some clubs even say, if you come to that meeting, whether that's in person or Zoom, and you give your 5 minutes on the report, you get a bonus on top of your bonus, like you get a sharing bonus. And the reason those meetings are cool is that all of a sudden I'm not just privy to the book I read, but I get information about books my teammates have read. And not only do I learn about those books, I get to learn about my teammates and how they interpreted those books. And so that interaction becomes so important that clubs have opted to give a 50% bonus on top of what their reading or their report bonus just for coming to the meeting. And so you don't have to do that, but that's a opportunity. Other clubs, when someone completes a report, they might report on it in their either daily, weekly, or monthly meeting of some sort in front of everybody. And I've seen that be a successful play as well. So how you share the reports, each club kind of has unique play on that. But if we're not sharing that folks have completed reports and earned rewards, then we're missing an opportunity to get the rest of the team what they see. One of the reasons that people don't read what you want them to read when you want to read it's just not their time. They've got other things happen in their lives, and I can't do it today. I can't do it this week or this month. Kids, family, pets, home. There's all kinds of reasons that sort of get in the way, other priorities. But one day, most people wake up and say, I'm going to read. And the goal of Better Book Club and the goal of keeping this program in front of everyone is the opportunity to say, when you decide it's time, we're going to recognize, reward, and feed that habit, because the habit is so much more important than the book itself. And so I tend to preach about that a lot, but I appreciate y'all's patience with it. So this is one where as an admin, you will get a report when someone you will get an email when someone completes a report. You know that you've got to go in and make that report. You need to go approve that report. But often I'll go into clubs and see how they're doing or check on their status, and I'll find that they have reports pending. And one of the worst things we can do as a leader in Better Book Club, as a champion, as an admin, is not approve reports when they're submitted, and people sort of wait, and they don't have really visibility into why they're waiting. And so this is CJ, the company I used to own. I walk into their club, and they had a report submitted on 12/6 that's waiting for approval. And there may be a very good reason for that, but sometimes I'll go into a club and there'll be reports that are a month, 45 days old that are still waiting to be approved. And so as an admin, just make sure you click on the gear wheel and then manage book reports so that you can see anything pending or waiting for your approval. And then also know that anything that you've approved in the past will be listed in this list below. This thing is totally searchable by dates or people or titles or authors. You can export the entire list. And I'm going to come back to why that's important. But the entire history of your program, of the reports submitted, the points and the rewards actually automatically sent if you're using Tango, will be listed in this report, so that you can see a full history. One of the reasons that we made this section here searchable by dates, so that you can say, hey, I need to know I need to know basically this quarter up to, call it today, or so it lets me go. Can't remember what today is, the 13th or 14th, missed it by one. So now I can export just this section, and I can convert this information into things that go into other communications. Like I can talk about the books we've read or reported on this quarter. I can make visual and interesting reports out of the results from Better Book Club, which is often an important way to just keep this thing in front of all of the potential users. We also, on that front, under the gear wheel, and I believe this is available to everyone, under analytics, you get to see kind of how your club as a whole is performing. So the analytics on this club is they've read almost 2,500 books that have been logged as read at some point. Total books read. Of that, almost 1,800 are actually in the library. So this is a healthy amount of books that people have read that aren't even included in their actual library. They've had 782 reports submitted, 61,000 points earned, and 8,000 Tango rewards sent. And then the history of readers, and then down below that, books. So what are our most popular books? Easily sorted and exported to any. We used to export this data and put it on the wall in our Warhol or on our intra web page, so that people always sort of had that information in front of them. I know this information is in the app. The goal, in addition to having it in the app where people can see it, is to get it outside the app, so people who are not yet using Better Book Club see what's going on in Better Book Club. And so, again, that's why the Slack and the Teams channels are so important. That's why getting this information and getting it out in your intra-company newsletter, or on the walls of your meeting place, or on an intra web page, so that other people can also be introduced to how important reading is in the organization. And this all goes back to, again, can go back to, the more your leaders participate, not necessarily in writing reports and getting rewards for reports, but in tagging the books they've read, as in congratulating folks for reading any book that makes sense, for recognizing the top readers, for acknowledging the top books. All these things lead to everyone adopting this as a part of your culture, as opposed to a thing that sort of gets pushed to the corner, as kind of as we also did. All right, we've talked about automating rewards. We talked about feeding club activities, Slack, and Teams. We've talked about managing your book reports, making sure those are done on a timely basis. And remember, when the rewards are automated, the report gets approved and the reward goes out immediately, which helps sort of help build that habit. So I want to talk about tagging books that aren't in your library and just making sure that everyone has a handle on how this sort of works. So I'm still in CJ's club per se, and they've got a very healthy library of books, almost 700 books that are in the club. But if I go to my profile specifically, which still resides at CJ, what you'll find is a lot of books that are in gray. And those books that are in gray are not yet included in the club library. And so if you've tagged a book that has not been accepted into your club library, then it will show up as gray. And the way you suggest that book is simply hovering over and suggesting that book to the club library, which will then go to the champion, and the champion can approve that request and say, what a great idea, let's include it, make sure it's got points assigned, everything like that. Or they can respond back and say, here's why we're not going to include that. And once you've suggested it, then you'll get the little hourglass to say that that's pending, that report, that book suggestion is pending into the library. Now, there are two settings within that everyone has in the club library. Some club libraries, book club settings, under library population type, are champion approved, which means no book gets into the library unless it's been approved by the champion. Now, once it's approved by the champion, it's in. They can. Also, this can be set to automatic, which means that any book tagged by any user in the club will automatically become part of the library. I love this setting because it demonstrates the fact that we're open to all kinds of reading. Now, it doesn't mean that book's going to have a gazillion points or that it's perfect. But what I've found is that 98% of the time, books suggested or books read by other people that they're logging into this system probably have a place in your library. And so rather than say, well, I don't want any book I don't know about in the library and sort of control it by rules, I'd rather you have guidelines to say any book you tag into our club will automatically get put in the library. So be responsible about what you tag. And if you see as the admin or as the champion, if you see books that you probably don't want to reward or that you don't want to be in a library, you can always go in and either take their points to 0, or you can take it out of your library at that point. So it's a reverse management. Instead of managing what gets in, let everything in, and then occasionally look and make sure everything in is what you want. I found that it's an easier way to manage the club library is to just let everything in. But however you manage your club, if you do champion approved, then you're going to have folks' profile that looks like mine does, whereas some books are in and some books have not yet been put in or suggested up. And so that's how it plays out. And how that works in practical sense is if I look for a book, first it's going to find every book it can within the library that matches the words I've typed, whether it's author or title or some portion of it. Then it's going to find books outside that opportunity. And if it finds them, they'll be listed down here. If you click up here, if you say I've read this book or read that book, by the way, the ones you've already read will show you the tag. Then they just go onto your bookshelf. If you tack one of the books down here, as I've read this, it will be added to your bookshelf, and it will be also added to the library if you're on automatic. It will be gray on your bookshelf if you're waiting for champion approval. So to get it approved, you got to first put it in your library, first put it on your bookshelf, and then suggest it up to the champion or the administrator to get into the library. A lot of folks, users, for whatever reason, mostly because we don't tell them, is that they believe that once they log on, that they're going to enter the books from that point forward that they read. And our extreme encouragement is that the first time someone logs on is that they tell you, the team, every book they've read from that they've chosen to read that make any sense at all to be on this bookshelf library. And so what we found is the more books they tag, the more I know the user. And the more books they tag, the more your stats make sense in terms of what your most popular books are. If I've read, wait for the profile. So this, your profile, your bookshelf always comes up as in most recent reading, but I've read 296 books that I've chosen to read since graduating college. I know that for some people that's a lot, and for some people that's just a starting point. Some people have read 10 books since college. Some people have read 3. Some people have read 1,000. But what we encourage everyone to do is treat this as your bookshelf. And if someone walked over your bookshelf, this is what I've read relevant to my position here, and sometimes not relevant to my position here, but relevant to my interest. That gives every team member the chance to walk up to another team member's bookshelf and say, oh, that's interesting. It also allows folks to look at others in the company. And in this case, I'll look at Allie, my former executive assistant, who's now a brand manager over at CJ. And I instantly can see that Allie's read 56 books and that we have 27 in common, right? That now I know how many books I have in common with Allie. And I can easily go through her library and see that we've both read Green Lights. We've both read Dare to Lead. I can see every book by this tag that we've both read in terms of what we have in common. So any team member can do this with another team member. Any leader can do this with their team. Any team member can do it with their leader. And so once someone puts in all the books they've read, then we start getting a real nice picture of what the most popular books are, how many books I have in common with each person. And as you see from the full user member page, I can literally sort by books in common and show that me and my ex-partner have the most books in common. Me and the new owner have equal amount of books in common. Me and the COO, who's been with CJ, I think for about 17 years now, have 58 books in common. So it's really cool to see who in the organization I have the most books in common with. And again, this is a feature that every user can use. It works best if everyone puts their entire their bookshelf into BetterBookClub. And you go, man, that's kind of painful to do. It can be a little painful by typing in consistent titles, but you can also use your phone and pull up BetterBookClub, the application through the web browser on your phone, and you can scan the barcode of a book, and it will automatically find it and allow you to add it to your bookshelf. So it's a cool little mobile feature that's available to users. If you happen to be someone who keeps physical books on a bookshelf, you can just go right through them and add them one at a time and build your bookshelf and become one of the top, in theory, top readers in your company, which is pretty cool. All right, so moving on, I think. I don't see any chat activity of questions or stop, you're killing me. So I'll keep moving.
Hey, Arnie, I have a question.
Yeah.
Going back to the adding to the library, in your experience, did you set any parameters going in, like, okay, team, you need to read a business-oriented book, or you need to read did you set any parameters, or did you just kind of give it a free-for-all and weed out where needed?
The standard line is any book that makes you a better human, right? As the leader of my company, my position is any book that makes you a better human is something I want to include in BetterBookClub. Now, where is the line on that? A lot of people love Where the Crawdads Sing. It's a fictional novel, I think partially fictional novel based on a true story kind of thing. It's a really cool book. Some leaders may say, absolutely, we want that included. in our book club, and some may say no. We're drawing the line at only nonfiction, right? So that's a question for every leader. Now, shades of gray. I use it as an example because it's an extreme. Probably not a book I want in my library. But if you're an action drama company, maybe you make movies, maybe you have a writer's company, maybe for some reason that book makes sense for you, then I'm thrilled for you. You should be thrilled to have it in your library. We had CJ was an ad agency, or is an ad agency that serves personal injury lawyers, and so we included Aaron Brockovich as a book and movie that if you watched it, you got credit within Better Book Club. We included Civil Action with John Travolta. We included books that help people understand the point of view of our client's client because it was good for our business. And so it really comes down to the company, but I want that door as open as the leader will allow it to be. I get very frustrated when the leader says, I only want these 12 books in the library. My response is, this is not a club for you. Like this system will not work for you with that narrow sort of mindset. What my goal as a leader was, I don't want people to just read the books I've read, because then that limits the scope of what we can see and do. I want folks to read books I haven't read so that it expands those opportunities. And as leaders, we have to be open to that.
Awesome. Thank you.
So a little feature that I wish was used more, we can follow other books and we can follow other users. And so in your profile, you have these blocks here. These are all the books I've read. This is the books you have in queue. And then I have 29 books that I'm personally following. These are 29 books that when I read it, I thought, I want to know when someone else is in a club that I'm in, reads one of these books, because I'll probably want to ask them about it. Or at least I want to know that they read it. And so these are all books that made a little more than average impact on me. Everyone's list is different. But if anyone in the club, the main club I'm in, and you can be in multiple clubs, I'm in like 10 different clubs. When someone in any club I'm in reads one of these books, I get an email. And whether I choose to act on that email or respond to that email is completely up to me. But by following the book, I get to see who else has read it in the company. I love this for leaders who have their favorite books, so that when someone reads your favorite book, you go to them or you email them or you get them on a call or a Zoom and you say, hey, I saw that you read Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. I love that book. I just want to let you know, I love that you're participating in the program and that we have that book in common. Tell me, that's it. Like, easy as that. And all of a sudden, there's an energy that goes up into someone's watching, someone appreciates, that's someone I can have, no pun intended, conversation with about this or other things. And so same way works for team members. If you want to know who else, when you bump into someone, whether it's on Zoom or for a coffee or on a business trip, to see that they've read something recently could be very interesting. We do the same thing with people. These are people I follow. And when any of these people read a book, I get an email or tag that they've read a book. And so then whether it's something I've ever read or not, or thinks interesting, it gives me the chance to determine if their influence is such that I might want to look at that book as well. And so I can follow the book, I can follow the person, and then of course I can be followed. These are all the people that follow me. When I read a book, every one of these people get an email that says, Arnie just finished this book. And so it doesn't mean they'll respond or do anything, but I'm being followed, and it gives me a sense of community around what I'm doing and how the book club works. And so pretty simple concept. You could stop following someone at any time. The question might be, well, how do I start following a person? We just go to their profile, and when the profile comes up, there's a button to start following. Let's see. I don't think there's Bonnie. And I can just follow Bonnie right there by clicking that button. Equally, if I was already following Bonnie, I could easily stop following from that standpoint. Same thing works on the books. If I click on the book, there's a little icon that says follow this book. and all of a sudden I'm following the book. So it's a pretty easy thing to navigate, but it creates communications that go crisscross in your company. So and so is reading this. This is your favorite book. That person's reading it. This is someone that you're interested in. They just started reading this, and so it starts creating additional conversation opportunities, whether it's at the break counter or on a Zoom before a call or on a business trip or whatever it might be. It's a chance to get to know. And then the last thing, but another big thing I wanted to talk about is we have just released here recently. We've integrated Open AI, and we've said to OpenAI, hey, we have users that have put the books that they've read into our system, and they've put in how well they like the book. They gave the book X number of stars, or so, based on their reading ability. They loved it 5 stars. They hated it 1 star. And so I know what they've read, and I know if they liked it. Based on everything I've read and the ratings, tell me what you think I should read next. And so every one of you can just go to the library and click this AI recommendation button. It's going to take all the titles and ratings that you've already read, and it's going to generate an additional list of books that it believes you'll also enjoy reading. And as you see by this display, there are books that were already in the library that it'll suggest, and it's even going to suggest books that aren't yet in your library. And so this is a cool way to say, if you're sitting there saying, what do I want to read next? I can tell you from clicking on this button dozens of times, and it'll give you slightly different answers each time you click. A, because there's a lot to pick from, and B, because we're still tweaking the system. But it's going to give you good suggestions because it knows, again, what you've read and how you've rated it, and it gives you a chance to then say, well, do I want to read this book? So you click on it, and there'll be a little description, and then you can browse just those books to say, is this a book I now want to read? If the system allows you to go right, this button up here will take you right back to the recommendations, and it allows you to think through, just give you ideas for what you want to put in your queue, what you want to read next, or if you want to come back in a month and click the button again, there's also the opportunities. We plan to add a few more control features where you'll be able to say, hey, I just want nonfiction, or I just want fiction. By the way, please check out my LinkedIn profile when making this recommendation. So if that helps you AI make the recommendation by using that information, use it. We're even going to add opportunities where you can put in your Briggs-Myers or your personality results from various tests. It'll take that into consideration. And so the goal is to always have something you can say, whether someone else read it and you want to read it, whether it's the most popular book in your club that you haven't read, whether AI suggests that you read it, anything to give you that next book to get started on is sort of the goal. And so we're proud of this little system, and we hope to drastically or constantly improve it over the next month or 3 as we move it forward. I'm going to hit on 2 other topics because I've got just a few more minutes here. One is some clubs, you'll find you will type in a title and you will find multiple versions of the same book in your library. And it's something we work very hard to eliminate, but it happens. And so there'll be like 3 books by the same title will come up on the list when you start typing. You're like, well, which one do I click on, or which one am I reading? The answer is it probably doesn't matter, but if you click on the most popular one, your stats will be the most correct. But what I do need you to do is you have to report those duplicates to up the chain by simply clicking on this button down here, this chat button, and saying, hey, I found some duplicate books in my club. Then we can go in the back end and clean that up. The reason that happens is that books are published under an ASIN number, the long series of numbers that identify that book, unique identifier, and then they'll make a small adjustment to the book and they'll republish. It'll get a new ASIN, and Amazon sees that as 2 different books, although it's the same. And so we have a system where we can go in and we can combine that data and say all of these ASINs are basically the same book. I've got some that have like 15 ASINs. They're books that have been published and republished with slight variations. The Kindle has a number, the audio recording has a number, the hardcover has a number, the soft shell has a number, and then there's versions. And so if I find, we actively look for these all the time and try to combine them. But if you see them, and if you're like me and it bugs you, just report it into me and I'll do my best to get it fixed. The other thing that folks find is that sometimes our system cannot find the page numbers for a book. It goes to Amazon, and it uses Amazon and Google to try to put together the title, the cover, the description, the page number, and we get that information from not all the same source, and sometimes it misses it. And so if you've got books in your library where the page number is not showing up, the number of pages, which affects the points, by the way, in most cases. So then tell me, open the chat, report the book, email me, contact me any way you can, and we will go in and backfill and update the page numbers to the best we can. I try to go in and update the 10 or 20 most popular books in our system that don't have page numbers, but it's an Herculean task that gets away from me sometimes. And so if you have a book that's bugging you, I can get rid of a duplicate. I can add the page numbers. I know what you're probably thinking. Hey, just make it so you guys can do it, and we'll crowdsource this thing. I'm with you. It's one improvement at a time. I would love to make that happen, but for now, report it up the chain, and we'll get it fixed so that your system is as clean as possible. I have spoken way more than I thought on this call, and I've appreciate every question. If there's more, this would be a great time to throw them out, and I can address them. But
Got a couple questions.
I've told you everything I can tell you. Yes.
Okay, so you can see stats on your team, like the top book read, like the highest rated book, et cetera, correct?
Yeah.
Can you see them overall in the program, like beyond just your team?
You get every user gets an email once a month that says these are the top books on your team, and these are the top 5. I think it's top 5 books in the entire system. But that's as far as it goes. Once any member, by the way, if you're a champion or an admin on this call, then you are automatically a part of our, where's that? Managed book century. You're part of our new Champions Club, meaning that you, in addition to be a member of your club, you're also a member of this club, which is a collection of champions from all the clubs throughout our Better Book Club nation. Now, what's cool about this is that this gives you a different look. This is, hey, of all the champions out there, here's the amount of books they're reading. Here's the books I have in common with them. Here's that library and how it looks. Like the sort of the readers or the champions of book club library, and this may look similar to yours, or it might look different. Once you've read at least once you tagged your 100th book, you will be put automatically into our Century Club. The Century Club is a collection of any member of the Better Book Club nation who has read at least 100 books, or is tagged at least 100 books. And so I think 103 members total. And it ranges from the top book reader John Spence, the great leadership coach and speaker who has tagged over 1,200 books. And it goes all the way down to the folks who have just crossed the 100 book barrier. And so if you consider yourself a reader, and you know you've read 100 books, but you just haven't tagged them all, go tag your books. You'll automatically be thrown into this group, and you can determine, hey, I know how I stand in my company, but how do I stand with other folks who consider themselves massive readers? I went beyond your question, but did I cover it?
Yes, but it also spurred another question. Does someone have to be on a team with you in order for you to follow them? Like if I were just a regular user at Petra and I saw John Spence speak at a conference and I said, oh, I want to know what he's reading, can I follow him?
You cannot unless you make your way into this century. We don't have a general number. We've had debates over whether we should just put everybody in one club. and just like we kind of automatically put you in the Champions Club, or we automatically put you in the Century Club, and we have not done that yet. And so if you you can only follow someone that's in a club
Okay.
that you're in.
Okay. And then one more question. What would you say are the top example? Oh, wait, we have another one too. Emily said, so you recommend going back in time and marking books you've read versus just adding books you've read once you join Better Book Club?
If it's part of your onboarding process, and so consider this for yourself as well. Go in, log in, add your picture, and tell me every book you've read by choice, not the ones you were forced to read, unless you really enjoyed it, by choice up to this point, right? That would be step number one. And for some people, that's 3 books, and for some people, that's could be 300 books, and which is a much bigger task. But for most people, it's at least 20 to 40 books. Not most people. For a lot of people, it's probably 20 to 40 books. Highly recommend it. It sets you up as a reader in the company. It lets other people sort of see your bookshelf, which is kind of like seeing what's inside. Tell me your books you've read, and I'll tell you how you think is what I believe is true. And just if you're like real particular like I am, when you go into your profile and you've added a book that you've read in the past, it is super slightly time consuming, but super easy to click on the date and just reset that date. Either type it in or click the number. And so the books I've read some time ago, I think I've got in here, sort by date read, so I'll reverse that. And these are some of the first books I read, books I chose to read. Great Rules, Swim with the Sharks, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Double Double. These are books I read, and I was able to go in and change the dates to back approximately. You don't have to get exactly, it's approximately. I read it so that your stuff flows in order. And then every book you tag from this point forward will just simply get the date you tagged it, and it'll be chronologically correct.
Okay, awesome. And then the question I was going to ask, as far as integration goes, what are the top, I guess, methods that you've seen companies use to fully integrate this into their team, into their culture, and get people on board? Like, is that, having a top readers poster? Is that, what does that look like that you've seen successful?
The steps are this. It's leaders add their picture and tag their books first. Like get my from the top of the organization, the top of the org chart. Those people participate, then it increases the odds. Number 2, it's part of the onboarding process. It's not something you get to eventually, but as soon as someone's hired, it's part. We had a 60-day checklist, and it was on that checklist so that it got done within the person's first 60 days of being with the company. It was just part of. They couldn't complete their checklist without doing Better Book Club. 3 is that again, as I mentioned earlier, if 6 people out of 30 are tagging their books and getting rewards, and it's all within a vacuum, and the rest of the team's not hearing about it, then it's just never going to grow. So the key for every club I've seen be successful is a combination of recognition and reward. And recognition comes in multiple ways. It's shout out at the huddle. It's pat on the back from a leader. Annually we have a system that if you check send anniversary emails under Manage Book Club settings, activate anniversary emails. If you change that to yes, then on team members' anniversary date, the admin and champions will get an email saying, "Hey, here's all the books you've read total and in the last year," and it gives everyone a chance to congratulate people on an annual run of reads, or ask them how they're growing if they're not reading, or just create a conversation. And so, by using these recognition tools, by tapping people, by talking about the books, by rewarding people in public, then what we found is that over a multi-month period, engagement grows. If it's all done sort of in the background and it's not public facing and there's no recognition of popular books and popular readers, then it just it'll do what most cultural programs do, which is just sit there and sort of almost be forgotten about unless they're being used.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? We've got a couple minutes left here for questions.
I appreciate everyone's time and patience, whether you're live on the call or you are listening to this in another session. Let me just tell you, I am passionate about Better Book Club, and I'm passionate because of the gift it gives team members. I remember the first 3 to 5 books I chose to read in my life and how they changed my life. And I truly believe that books give us the opportunity to not just change our company, which is massively important, but to change people's lives in terms of how they engage with the world, what windows it opens to in terms of perspective. And so I am passionate about giving people that opportunity to read and to grow as I did. And so anytime you want to talk about Better Book Club, how it's working in your company, why it's not working, what obstacles you're trying to get over, what things are keeping you from being successful, I will jump on a Zoom and I will have a very energetic, I'll tone it down if I need to, conversation with you. I'm happy to talk to your leadership. I'm happy to talk to your team. I'm happy to show up at your meetings. I'm happy to do whatever it takes to get books and brains so that you can grow your people, so that they can grow your company, and that Better Book Club can be a part of that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Arnie. And thank you guys for attending. You will receive a recap within the next 24 hours. That'll include any resources mentioned and a link to rewatch this webinar. If you enjoyed this thought leadership webinar, you can find out more information about our next one with Karen Kopp coming up on the 18th, or our next 60-minute habits workshop on smart priorities coming up February 8th. You can find all of that information on petracoach.com/petraevents. And if you have any other questions or we can provide any additional help, please reach out to us at info@petracoach.com. We'll also include Arnie's information if you want to have a further conversation. Arnie, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Loved it. I appreciate it. Keep rocking forward.
Everyone have a great day.